My brother stole my inheritance and convinced our dying mother I abandoned her. The hospice nurse called me at work on a Friday morning in March. Your mother is asking why you never visit. I told her I'd been there 3 times this week. The nurse paused. Your brother said you haven't been here in 6 months. He said you moved to California and stopped caring about your family. I gripped my phone harder. That's a lie. I was there Wednesday. I'm her primary caregiver. The nurse sounded uncomfortable. I'm just telling you what I was told. Your brother has a medical power of attorney now. He says your mother doesn't want to see you anymore. My stomach dropped. What do you mean he has power of attorney? I have that. She transferred it to him last month. He brought in the paperwork. I hung up and immediately called the hospice center back, asking for the administrator. She confirmed what the nurse said. My brother Derek had brought signed documents transferring all medical and financial power of attorney from me to him. My mother allegedly signed them on February 10th. I'd seen my mother on February 10th. She could barely hold a pen. She had stage 4 pancreatic cancer and was heavily medicated for pain. There was no way she signed anything that day. I left work immediately and drove to the hospice center. The receptionist recognized me. Hey, David, here to see your mom? Yes. Is she awake? She stopped me before I could walk down the hall. I need to check something first. She made a phone call, spoke quietly, then hung up. Your brother left instructions that you're not allowed in her room without his permission. What? I'm her son. I understand, but he has medical power of attorney. He says your presence upsets her. This is insane. I've been taking care of her for 2 years. The receptionist looked sympathetic but firm. I'm sorry. I have to follow the legal documentation. If you want to contest it, you'll need to speak with your brother or get a lawyer. I asked where Derek was. She said he'd been staying in my mother's room almost constantly for the past 3 weeks. I walked toward her room anyway. Security stopped me halfway down the hall. Sir, you need to leave. My mother is dying and my brother is lying to everyone. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll call the police. I left before they could escalate, sat in my car shaking with rage and disbelief. Derek had somehow taken control of everything while I was at work and caring for my own family. I called my wife, Rebecca. She was horrified. I drove straight to a lawyer's office, the first one I could find that took walk-ins. His name was Arthur Brennan, mid-50s with kind eyes and a cluttered desk. I explained everything. He listened carefully and took notes. Do you have copies of the original power of attorney documents? Yes, at home. I filed them 2 years ago when Mom was first diagnosed. Good, we'll need those. He leaned back in his chair. This sounds like elder abuse and fraud. If your mother wasn't mentally competent to sign new documents, those signatures are invalid. But we'll need medical records proving her condition on that date. Can you get those? I'm not allowed near her anymore. He nodded. I can subpoena them. But I need to be honest with you. These cases take time. If your mother is in hospice, time is something we might not have. I felt sick. So Derek just wins? Arthur shook his head. Not necessarily. We can file an emergency petition to invalidate the new power of attorney documents, but you'll need evidence. Witnesses who saw your mother that day, medical staff who can testify about her mental state, anyone who can confirm she wasn't capable of signing legal documents. I thought about who might help. Most of the hospice staff were new. Derek had been there constantly, probably building relationships and spreading lies. I called my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. She lived 2 states away, but had visited once a month since the diagnosis. Have you talked to Derek recently? I asked. She sighed. He called me last week, said you'd abandoned your mother and that I shouldn't believe anything you say. David, what's going on? I told her everything. She was quiet for a long moment. I knew something was wrong. When I visited last month, your mother kept asking where you were. Derek told her you were too busy with work, but she seemed confused, like she didn't quite believe it. Did she seem mentally sharp when you saw her? Linda hesitated. Not really. The pain medication made her foggy. She had moments of clarity, but mostly she was in and out. There's no way she could have signed legal documents. Exactly. Linda promised to help however she could. She'd testify if needed. She'd call other family members and tell them the truth. After we hung up, I sat in my car outside Arthur's office and tried to piece together when this started. Derek had always been the problem child. Dropped out of college, bounced between jobs, borrowed money from Mom constantly. I was the responsible one. College degree, steady job as an engineer, married with 2 kids. When Mom got sick, I'd taken family leave to care for her, brought her to appointments, managed her medications, coordinated with hospice. Derek barely visited. That night, I went through all my mother's paperwork. Found the original power of attorney documents dated 2 years ago. Found her will, also 2 years old, splitting everything 50-50 between Derek and me. Her house, her savings account with about $80,000, her life insurance policy for another $100,000. Not a fortune, but enough to matter. I found my visitation logs. I'd been documenting every visit to the hospice center for insurance purposes. 3 to 4 times a week for months. Notes about her condition, what we talked about, how the staff was treating her. Proof that I'd never abandoned her. Rebecca looked over my shoulder at the papers spread across our dining table. Why would Derek do this? Money, I said. It's always been about money with him. But to manipulate a dying woman? Rebecca shook her head. Your mother loved you. She told me a dozen times how grateful she was that you were taking care of everything. Derek must have seen an opportunity when her mind started going. The cancer had spread to her brain in January. That was when the confusion started. She'd have good days and bad days. On bad days, she didn't always recognize people or remember recent conversations. Derek must have used those bad days to plant lies. I filed the emergency petition on Monday morning. Arthur submitted all my documentation, medical records request, witness statements from Aunt Linda, my visitation logs, character references from people who knew my relationship with Mom. The court scheduled a hearing for Friday, 5 days. In the meantime, I was still banned from seeing my mother. I called the hospice center every day asking about her condition. They wouldn't tell me anything. Patient privacy, they said. Talk to the medical power of attorney. Derek never returned my calls. On Tuesday, I drove to the hospice center again. Waited in the parking lot until I saw Derek leave. He drove a new truck. Brand new, dealer plate still on it. Where did he get money for a new truck? I followed him to a bank. Watched him walk inside. 20 minutes later, he came out looking satisfied. I parked and went in after he left. Asked to speak with a manager. She was a professional woman in her 40s named Carol. I explained who I was and that I suspected my brother was stealing from our mother's accounts. She looked uncomfortable. I can't discuss customer accounts without proper authorization. I understand. But if someone with power of attorney was draining a dying woman's account, you'd want to know, right? Carol said she'd look into it but couldn't promise anything. I left my contact information. That afternoon, Arthur called. The bank manager contacted me. She found some irregularities. 3 large withdrawals in the past month, totaling $60,000. All authorized by your brother using the power of attorney. My chest tightened. 60,000? Your mother's savings account is almost empty now. Carol's willing to testify about the suspicious timing and amounts. This helps our case significantly. I asked what happened to the money. Arthur said Derek had withdrawn it in cashier's checks. No record of where it went after that. Probably deposited in Derek's personal account or spent on things like that new truck. The hearing was in 3 days. Arthur said we had a strong case for fraud, but the judge might not act quickly enough. Your mother's condition is deteriorating. The hospice reported she has maybe 2 weeks left. Even if we win, Derek has already done immense damage. I thought about my mother believing I'd abandoned her, dying while thinking her son didn't care. The cruelty of it made me want to break something. Wednesday morning, I received a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice, young and nervous. Is this David Hargrove? Yes. Who is this? My name is Amy. I'm a nursing assistant at the hospice center. I shouldn't be calling you, but I need to tell you what's happening. My pulse quickened. What's happening? Your brother has been isolating your mother completely. He tells the staff that she doesn't want visitors. He's there constantly, sitting in her room. And he gets angry if anyone spends too much time with her. Yesterday, I heard him talking to her when he thought no one was listening. What did he say? Amy's voice dropped to almost a whisper. He was telling her that you took all her money, that you stole from her, and that's why you're not visiting. Because you're too guilty to face her. Your mother was crying. She kept saying she didn't believe it, but he just kept repeating it. Over and over. Telling her you betrayed her. I felt rage flood through my system. Why are you telling me this? Because it's wrong. I've watched you visit your mother for months. You were always kind and patient with her. What he's doing is abuse. Can you testify? There was a long pause. I could lose my job. Amy agreed to meet me and Arthur that afternoon at a coffee shop. She was maybe 25, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, dark circles under her eyes. She looked terrified. I brought copies of notes I've been keeping. She slid a folder across the table. Times when Derek prevented other family from visiting, conversations he had with your mother that seemed manipulative, medications he asked about. Arthur paged through the notes. This is detailed. Why did you document all this? Amy wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. My grandmother died last year. My uncle did something similar. Isolated her, took her money, turned her against the rest of us. By the time we realized what was happening, she was gone. I didn't want to see it happen again and do nothing. Arthur looked at me. Amy's willing to testify. Her notes show a pattern of psychological abuse. Combined with the financial evidence, we have a strong case. But I have to warn you both. Derek will retaliate. He'll try to discredit Amy and make you look vindictive. Are you prepared for that? Amy nodded. I already talked to my supervisor. Told her I was coming forward. She's supportive. More than that, she said other staff members have noticed Derek's behavior too. They're willing to back me up. Thursday afternoon, Arthur's office called. The judge moved the hearing to tomorrow morning at 8. They're treating this as urgent given your mother's condition. Be prepared. Derek will have a lawyer and he'll fight hard. I barely slept that night. Rebecca held my hand in the dark. You're going to win. Your mother will know the truth. What if we're too late? What if she's already too far gone to understand? Then you'll know you fought for her. That matters. The next morning, I put on my best suit and drove to the courthouse. Arthur met me outside. He had a leather briefcase and a determined expression. Derek has a lawyer. His name is Frank Paulson. He's known for aggressive tactics. Don't let him bait you. Stay calm and stick to the facts. We walked into the courtroom. Derek was already there with his lawyer. Derek looked confident, even smug. He dressed nicely, but I could see his new watch, expensive shoes, things he couldn't have afforded a month ago. The judge entered. Her name was Judge Marianne Foster. She looked to be in her 60s, gray hair, sharp eyes. She reviewed the petition briefly, then addressed both sides. This is an emergency hearing regarding medical and financial power of attorney for Eleanor Hargrove. Let's proceed efficiently. Arthur presented our case first. He submitted my original power of attorney documents, showed the timeline of my consistent care for my mother, presented the medical records proving her diminished mental capacity in February. Then he called Amy to testify. She was nervous, but clear. Described Derek's isolation tactics, the manipulative conversations, the pattern of preventing family access. Derek's lawyer, Paulson, cross-examined her aggressively. Isn't it true you've only worked at this hospice for 6 months? Yes. And isn't it true you have a previous complaint in your employment file for overstepping boundaries with a patient's family? Amy's face flushed. That was a misunderstanding. It was resolved. Paulson smiled coldly. So you have a history of inserting yourself into family matters that don't concern you. Objection, Arthur said. Relevance. The judge sustained it. Paulson moved on. Isn't it possible that Mr. Derek Hargrove was simply protecting his mother from unwanted stress? That his brother's visits were upsetting her? No. I witnessed the opposite. Arthur called Carol from the bank next. She testified about the suspicious withdrawals, the timing, the amounts. Paulson tried to argue that Derek had every legal right to access those funds as power of attorney. Carol remained professional. Legal right doesn't mean ethical behavior. The pattern suggests financial exploitation. Then Arthur called me to testify. I walked through 2 years of caring for my mother. The appointments, the medications, the conversations we had. I showed my visitation logs with dates and details. I explained how I'd found out about the power of attorney change, how I'd been banned from seeing her, how Derek had spread lies about me abandoning her. Paulson's cross-examination was brutal. Mr. Hargrove, isn't it true you and your brother have never gotten along? We've had our differences. Isn't it true you resented having to care for your mother while your brother lived his own life? No. That's not true. Isn't it true this petition is really about you wanting control of your mother's estate? I stood up straighter. This is about my mother being manipulated and abused. It's about her dying while believing lies. Paulson smirked. Or maybe it's about you being angry that your brother finally stepped up and you couldn't handle not being the favorite son anymore. Judge Foster cut in. That's enough. Both of you. She looked at Derek. Mr. Derek Hargrove, I want to hear from you. Explain why you sought to transfer power of attorney from your brother. Derek stood. He'd practiced this. Your Honor, my brother has always controlled everything in our family. When Mom got sick, he took over completely. Wouldn't let me be involved. I felt shut out. Derek continued, his voice smooth and confident. In February, Mom had a moment of clarity. She told me she was tired of David making all her decisions. She wanted me involved, so I helped her update the documents. That's all. Arthur stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Hargrove's medical records from February show she was heavily sedated and confused. Multiple nurses documented her disorientation. Judge Foster nodded. I've seen the records. She looked at Derek. Where is your mother's primary physician? Can they testify to her mental competence on the date these documents were signed? Paulson shifted. Dr. Raymond is out of the country currently. How convenient, Arthur said. The judge frowned. I want to see the actual documents. Paulson handed them over. Judge Foster examined them carefully. Her expression changed. These signatures don't match. She pulled out the original power of attorney documents I'd submitted. Compared them side by side. The signatures are clearly different. One is shaky and uncertain. The other is steady and controlled. Arthur leaned forward. Your Honor, we believe the new documents were signed during a period of mental incapacity, or possibly forged entirely. I request a handwriting expert examine them. Derek's face went pale. Paulson tried to recover. Your Honor, my client's mother has been ill. Her handwriting naturally changed. Judge Foster wasn't convinced. I'm ordering an immediate forensic examination of these documents. In the meantime, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order against Derek Hargrove. She looked directly at Derek. You are prohibited from accessing any of Eleanor Hargrove's financial accounts or making medical decisions on her behalf. David Hargrove's original power of attorney is reinstated immediately. Derek jumped up. You can't do that. She's my mother too. The judge's voice was ice. Sit down. You've withdrawn $60,000 from a dying woman's accounts. You've isolated her from family. You've spread false information about your brother. Whether through fraud or undue influence, your behavior is deeply concerning. I'm also ordering Adult Protective Services to investigate potential elder abuse. Derek looked at Paulson in panic. His lawyer tried to argue, but the judge was done. This hearing is adjourned. I'll expect the forensic report within a week. Until then, Mr. David Hargrove has full authority. As soon as the judge left, I headed straight for the door. Arthur grabbed my arm. Go see your mother. I'll handle the paperwork. I drove to the hospice center faster than I should have. Walked inside and straight to the reception desk. The same woman from before looked up. I have a court order, I said. I'm allowed to see my mother. She made a quick call, then nodded. Room 12. Go ahead. I walked down the hall on shaking legs. Derek had already left the courthouse, probably racing to the hospice. I needed to get to Mom first. I pushed open the door to room 12. My mother was in bed, eyes closed, so much thinner than I remembered. The cancer had ravaged her. She looked like she'd aged 20 years in the past month. Mom? I said softly. Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused at first. Then they found my face. David? Her voice was weak, confused. Yes, Mom. It's me. She started crying. I thought you left me. I thought you didn't care anymore. I moved to her bedside and took her hand. Never. I've been here the whole time. Derek told me you were gone, that you stole my money. He said you abandoned me because I was dying. Tears ran down her hollow cheeks. I squeezed her hand gently. None of that is true. Derek was lying. I've been trying to see you for weeks, but he wouldn't let me in. I brought out my phone and showed her the visitation logs. See? I was here 3 times a week, every week. She stared at the screen, trying to process. But Derek said you hated me. Mom, I love you. I've never stopped loving you. Derek was manipulating you. He wanted your money. She closed her eyes, and more tears came. I was so confused. The medication makes everything foggy. He kept telling me things, and I didn't know what was real. The door opened behind me. Derek stood there, breathing hard. He'd run from the parking lot, get away from her. I turned to face him. The judge gave me power of attorney back. You're done. Derek's face twisted with rage. You always do this. Always playing the perfect son. Always making me look bad. You made yourself look bad by stealing from our dying mother. He stepped forward. I didn't steal anything. She gave it to me. She wanted me to have it. I stood between him and the bed. You forged her signature. You isolated her. You convinced her I abandoned her. All for money. Derek's hands clenched into fists. You don't know what it's like, being the screw-up brother. Watching you succeed at everything while I fail. Mom always loved you more. So you decided to steal her money and destroy her relationship with me? That was your solution? He looked at Mom, then back at me. She's dying anyway. What does it matter? Those words hung in the air. Even Derek seemed to realize he'd gone too far. Mom made a sound from the bed. A sob, or maybe a gasp. I turned back to her. She was staring at Derek with an expression I'd never seen. Betrayal mixed with heartbreak. Get out, she whispered. Derek, get out. Mom, I didn't mean it like that. Get out of my room. Her voice was stronger now. You lied to me. You stole from me. You turned me against my son. Get out. Derek looked desperately between us. Then he turned and left. The door slammed behind him. I sat on the edge of Mom's bed. We need to talk about what happened. She nodded weakly. Over the next hour, I explained everything. The court hearing, the evidence, the forensic examination of the signatures. She listened with tears running down her face. I'm so sorry, David. You have nothing to be sorry for. You were sick and confused. Derek took advantage of that. She gripped my hand with surprising strength. I remember now. Pieces of it. He'd come in when I was half asleep. Keep talking about how you'd abandoned us. How you were too busy with your own family. I wanted to believe he was wrong, but the medication made everything so unclear. It's over now. You know the truth. But the money. She looked distressed. Did he take everything? Most of it. We'll get some back through legal action. But Mom, money doesn't matter right now. What matters is that we're together. She cried harder. I wasted so much time believing his lies. Time we can't get back. We have time now. I'm not going anywhere. I stayed with her for 6 hours that day. We talked about everything. Old memories, her life, my kids, things she wanted me to know. The fog from the medication would come and go, but in the clear moments, she was herself again, my real mother, not the confused woman Derek had been manipulating. That evening, Arthur called. The hospice administrator wants to meet with you tomorrow. They're very concerned about what happened. I met with the administrator, a stern woman named Patricia, the next morning. She sat across from me in her office with a formal expression. Mr. Hargrove, I want to apologize on behalf of our facility. We failed to protect your mother from abuse. We should have questioned your brother's claims more thoroughly. I appreciate that. What happens now? We filed our own report with Adult Protective Services. We're also implementing new protocols to prevent this from happening to other patients. Your brother is banned from our premises. Security has his photo. If he tries to visit, we'll call the police. Good. Patricia leaned forward. Your mother's condition is declining rapidly. Days, not weeks. I recommend you spend as much time with her as possible. I took a family leave from work. Spent every day at the hospice. My wife brought our kids to visit. Mom held my daughter's hand and told her stories. Smiled when my son showed her drawings from school. She was weak but present. Herself, grateful for every moment. Derek tried to call multiple times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails alternating between angry and apologetic. None of it mattered anymore. The forensic report came back 5 days later. Arthur called with the results. The signature on the new power of attorney documents is forged. The expert says it's a clear case of fraud. Someone tried to mimic your mother's signature, but the pressure points, letter formations, and flow are all wrong. So Derek forged it himself. That's the conclusion. I've forwarded this to the district attorney. They're considering criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. What about the money he took? We can file a civil suit to recover it, but criminal prosecution comes first. If he's convicted, restitution might be part of his sentence. I thought about Derek going to prison. Didn't feel satisfaction or revenge, just sadness. Our family was broken beyond repair. I told Arthur to proceed with everything. 2 days later, the police arrested Derek at his apartment. They found evidence there. Forged signature practice sheets, notes about Mom's medication schedule, planning documents. He'd been systematic about it. Calculated. They charged him with first-degree theft, forgery, criminal exploitation of an elderly person, and fraud. His bail was set at $50,000. He couldn't pay it. Arthur updated me regularly. The district attorney's office is taking this seriously. They see it as a clear case of elder abuse for financial gain. Derek's looking at significant prison time if convicted. Do they need me to testify? Absolutely. And your mother, if she's able. I'll ask her. Mom's condition worsened rapidly that week. The cancer was in her bones now, her brain. She slept most of the time. When she was awake, she was confused more often than clear, but she had moments. Beautiful, painful moments of clarity where she'd grab my hand and tell me she loved me. On Thursday afternoon, she woke from sleep and seemed alert. David? I'm here, Mom. She looked around the room. Where's Derek? He's not here. Do you want me to call him? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that broke my heart. He's still my son. I know. Even after everything? She started crying. He's sick. Something's wrong inside him. Has been since he was young. I tried to help him, but I didn't know how. You did your best. I failed both of you. You didn't fail me. I'm proud to be your son. She squeezed my hand. Promise me something. When I'm gone, don't let hate consume you. Derek made terrible choices, but he's still your brother. I don't know if I can forgive him. I'm not asking you to forgive. Just don't let it poison your life. Find a way to let go. I promised I'd try. That seemed to give her peace. She fell asleep holding my hand. She died 3 days later, Sunday morning, just after dawn. I was there. So was Rebecca and Aunt Linda. Mom slipped away quietly. No pain, no distress. Just stopped breathing. The nurse confirmed it. She's gone. I sat there holding her hand for a long time after, feeling empty and relieved at the same time. She wasn't suffering anymore, and she died knowing I loved her, knowing the truth. The funeral was the following Friday. Small service at the church Mom attended. Maybe 40 people came, friends, distant relatives, some of her former co-workers. Derek wasn't there. Still in jail, bail denied after he'd violated the restraining order by trying to call Mom at the hospice. Arthur thought it was better that way. Less potential for conflict. I gave the eulogy, talked about Mom's strength, her kindness, how she'd raised 2 boys alone after Dad died, how she'd sacrificed everything to give us opportunities. I didn't mention Derek or the betrayal, just focused on who Mom was and what she meant to people. Afterward, at the cemetery, Aunt Linda stood beside me while they lowered the casket. She deserved better than what Derek did to her, I know. But she died with love, not lies. That's what matters. The estate settled quickly. Mom's will was clear. 50-50 split between Derek and me, but Derek's inheritance was seized immediately to cover restitution for what he'd stolen. After legal fees and funeral costs, there wasn't much left anyway. Maybe $15,000. I put it in a college fund for my kids. Felt like that's what Mom would have wanted. The criminal trial happened 8 months later. I testified about discovering the fraud, about Mom's condition, about Derek's manipulation. Amy and other hospice staff testified about his behavior. The bank manager testified about the suspicious withdrawals. Derek's lawyer tried to argue diminished capacity due to stress and grief. The jury didn't buy it. They convicted him on all charges. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 3. Derek stood there while they read the sentence, his face blank. For just a moment, he looked at me across the courtroom. I couldn't read his expression. Regret? Anger? Nothing? Then they let him away. I felt something release in my chest. Not happiness, just closure. Arthur walked out with me. How do you feel? I thought about it, sad. This whole thing destroyed our family, but your mother knew the truth before she died. That's what you fought for. Yeah, that's what mattered. I drove home and told Rebecca about the verdict. She hugged me tight. It's over. Not quite. I still have to figure out how to explain to our kids why their uncle is in prison. We'll do it together. We'll be honest but age-appropriate. They need to know that actions have consequences. That night, I couldn't sleep. Got up and went through old photos. Found pictures of Derek and me as kids. 2 boys playing in the yard, arms around each other, smiling. Before money and jealousy and resentment twisted everything. I wondered when it started going wrong. If there was a moment I could have changed things. Probably not. Derek made his choices. I made mine. I put the photos away and went back to bed. Rebecca stirred. You okay? Getting there. It just takes time. 3 years passed. I focused on my family, my job, rebuilding normal life. Saw a therapist for a while to process everything. The anger, the grief, the guilt over not seeing Derek's plans earlier. The therapist helped me understand I couldn't have prevented it. Derek had been planning for months, maybe years. He'd waited for the perfect opportunity when Mom was vulnerable. On a cold November afternoon, I got a call from the prison. Derek was up for parole. Did I want to make a statement at his hearing? I thought about Mom's last request. Don't let hate consume you. Find a way to let go. I told them no, I wouldn't speak for or against his release. That wasn't my burden anymore. 2 weeks later, Derek was released on parole. 3 years served. Rebecca asked if I was worried about him coming around. I don't think he will. What we had is gone. A month after his release, a letter arrived at my house. Plain envelope, no return address. Inside was a single page in Derek's handwriting. It said, I know you won't believe this, but I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did to Mom. Sorry for the lies. I was drowning financially and saw a way out. Convinced myself it was justified because she'd always favored you. But none of that was true. Mom loved us both. I destroyed that for money that's gone now anyway. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I understand what I did. I have to live with it forever. I hope you and your family are well. I read it 3 times. Showed it to Rebecca. What do you think? She was quiet for a moment. I think he's finally taking responsibility. Doesn't undo what happened, though. No, it doesn't. Are you going to respond? I thought about it. Thought about Mom's request. About 2 boys playing in a yard before everything went wrong. I took out a piece of paper and wrote back. Simple. Direct. Derek, I received your letter. I appreciate the acknowledgement. What you did can't be fixed with words. Mom died believing you loved her despite everything, and I choose to honor that. We won't have a relationship. Too much damage. But I don't wish you harm. I hope you find a way to live with yourself and become someone different than who you were. Take care. I mailed it the next day. Never heard back. Didn't expect to. But writing it felt like closing a door that had been open too long. 6 months later, I drove past the cemetery where Mom was buried. Stopped on impulse and walked to her grave. Stood there in the spring sunshine looking at her headstone. Eleanor Marie Hargrove, beloved mother and friend. I didn't say anything out loud. Just stood there thinking about everything we'd been through. How close Derek came to stealing not just her money, but her last memories of me. How we'd fought back and won what mattered most. The truth. And time together before the end. Someone cleared their throat behind me. I turned. Derek stood there 20 feet away. We stared at each other. He'd lost weight. Looked older, harder, different. I didn't say anything. Neither did he at first. Then he gestured at the grave. I came to say goodbye. Finally. You're allowed to. He walked closer but kept distance between us. Stopped at the edge of the grave. I visit once a month. Probably sounds hollow. Maybe. But it's something. Derek knelt and placed flowers on the ground. White roses. Mom's favorite. We stood in silence for a while. The wind moved through the trees. Birds called to each other. Normal sounds in a place of grief. I think about what I did every day, Derek said quietly. Replays in my head constantly. Therapy helps, but some things don't go away. I nodded. I need you to know something, he continued. I did it, but I wasn't alone. What? There was someone else. A home health aide Mom had for a few weeks before hospice. Her name was Karen. She's the one who first suggested I could take control of Mom's finances if I acted fast. She helped me forge the signatures, showed me how to make it look legitimate. Why are you telling me this now? Because she's doing it again. I saw her at a nursing home last month. Recognized her immediately. She's working with elderly patients there. I reported it, but they didn't take me seriously. I'm an ex-con. My word doesn't mean much. Give me her full name and where she works, Derek told me. I called Arthur that afternoon, explained what Derek had revealed. Arthur was skeptical. Can we trust Derek after everything? I don't know. But if he's telling the truth, someone needs to stop her before she hurts more people. Arthur agreed to look into it. He contacted the nursing home and requested their employment records for Karen Sutherland. She'd been working there for 8 months. Before that, she'd worked at 4 other elder care facilities over the past decade, always moving on after a year or less. Red flag. Arthur dug deeper. Found 3 families who'd dealt with similar situations. Elderly relatives suddenly changing legal documents, cutting out family members, giving access to their finances to someone they barely knew. In each case, Karen had been a caregiver. We compiled everything and submitted it to the state licensing board and the district attorney. They opened an investigation. Took 6 months, but they built a case. Karen had a pattern. She'd target elderly patients with significant assets and cognitive decline, gain their trust, suggest changes to their estate plans that benefited her directly or through accomplices, move on before families realized what happened. She was arrested on 12 counts of fraud and elder abuse. The trial made regional news. Multiple families testified about what she'd done to their loved ones. The jury convicted her on all counts. She got 15 years, longer than Derek because of the multiple victims and the systematic nature of her crimes. Arthur called me after the sentencing. We did it. We stopped her. Couldn't have done it without Derek's tip. I thanked him. He paused, then added something. Derek could have kept quiet. Let her keep hurting people. But he didn't. Maybe that means something. I thought about that conversation for days. About Derek's letter, his admission, his tip about Karen, about Mom's last request to find a way to let go. One Saturday morning, I drove to the address listed on Derek's parole documents. Small apartment in a rough part of town. I knocked. Derek answered, looking shocked to see me. "David, can I come in?" He stepped aside. The apartment was sparse. Secondhand furniture, old TV, everything neat and clean. He worked construction now. I could see work boots by the door, dusty jeans hanging over a chair. We stood awkwardly in his small living room. "I came to say something," I started. Derek waited. "Because of your information, they stopped Karen. She can't hurt anyone else. You did the right thing." He looked down. "Doesn't make up for what I did." "No, but it's something. Mom asked me before she died not to let hate consume me. I've been carrying anger for years. It's exhausting. I'm not saying we're brothers again. I'm not saying I forgive everything, but I'm saying I'm choosing to let go." Derek's eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve that." "Probably not. But I'm doing it anyway. For me, not for you." He nodded, wiping his face with the back of his hand. "I think about her every day, about how she looked at me when she realized what I'd done. That look is burned into my memory. Good. You should remember it. Maybe it'll keep you from making the same mistakes." I turned to leave. Derek spoke behind me. "David?" I looked back. "Thank you." "For what?" "For fighting for her. For making sure she knew the truth before she died. I couldn't do that. But I'm glad you did." I left his apartment and drove home. Felt lighter somehow. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just release. The weight I'd been carrying for years finally starting to ease. Rebecca was in the kitchen when I got home. Our daughter ran up to hug me. "Daddy, where did you go?" "Just had to take care of something." "Everything okay?" Rebecca asked. I pulled her close. "Yeah, finally." That night I dreamed about Mom. She was healthy again, the way she looked before the cancer. We were sitting in her old kitchen drinking coffee. She smiled at me. "You did good, David. Took care of what mattered. I miss you." "I know. But I'm okay now. No more pain, no more confusion. Just peace." "What about Derek?" She reached across the table and took my hand. "Derek has his own path, his own consequences. You did what you needed to do, fought for the truth, protected me when I couldn't protect myself. That's what a son does." I woke up with tears on my face. Rebecca stirred beside me. "Bad dream?" "No. Good dream, actually. Years passed. Life moved forward. My kids grew. My career advanced. Rebecca and I celebrated our 20th anniversary. I stayed in contact with Aunt Linda. We'd meet for lunch occasionally and talk about Mom, share memories, keep her alive in our stories. I never saw Derek again after that day in his apartment. Heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved to another state, was still working construction, staying clean, living quietly. That was enough. I didn't need more. On the 10th anniversary of Mom's death, I went to the cemetery, brought white roses, stood at her grave in the warm sunlight. A decade gone. The pain had faded to something manageable. Just sadness now, instead of raw grief. "I forgave him," I said quietly to the headstone. "Not because he deserved it, but because you asked me to. Because carrying that anger was hurting me more than it hurt him. I hope wherever you are, you have peace. I love you, Mom. Always will." I placed the roses on the grave and walked back to my car, leaving the past where it belonged, behind me. If you enjoyed this, you'll definitely want to see the next ones too. So subscribe now and let me know your take in the comments.